think we all have to speak through our personal experiences. For me, this idea that there is a problem in terms of interfaith between Muslims and Christians is almost surreal, it's strange. And that comes from my own personal experience. At the age of 8, my parents sent me to a boarding Catholic school, St. Anne's in Kaduna. I was trained by Catholic nuns from the Chapel of the Sisters of the Apostles in Cork, in Ireland. No one attempted to convert me to Christianity. No one interfered with my faith. Yes, as a matter of interest, we read the Bible, we read books like Thy Kingdom Come. I listened to all the Hail Marys and Our Fathers. I watched them take communion. Sometimes I joined the choir and sang, but there was never ever a sense that because I was a Muslim or some of us were Muslims or Christians, there was a difference. We're all just children given an education, being taught values. And we used to complain because St. Anne's and Capital School were the best schools in the north at that time. The children of Capital School used to have cornflakes and butter and lived in comfortable houses. We, typical of the Catholic Church, they gave us bad food, kava, we had to have cold baths in the morning, strict discipline. But at the end of the day, we felt that we were taught that while the material things in this world are good, they are not what define you. And I'm a Muslim religious leader, but I still talk about the benefits I had going through that experience. And someone spoke about General Babangida and all the institutions, NYSC, Unity Schools, and so on. I went to King's College. And those Unity Schools taught us that there was no difference between one Nigerian and the next. We're not allowed to speak vernacular. In King's College, if you mixed around too much with members of the same ethnic group or the same religion, you were ostracized as backward and barbaric. You needed to have friends that were up to date. Up to date, my best friend, one of my best friends in King's College, remains Ita Igodado, who is a pastor. He's the only friend of mine that we've gone together on family trips with, my wife and his wife. He's a pastor. So, what really is wrong? And when you read, and you know, by the way, when I was in King's College, one of the subjects I took for O-levels was Bible knowledge. And I was top of my class. I had better grades than all the Christian students. And while all of us Muslims, if you try to read the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, you find the same stories recurring as in the Quran. But also if you go to the New Testament, and my favorite book in the New Testament is 1 John, the first epistle of John. A Muslim reading the first epistle of John will not see a single line that he disagrees with. Because the content of the first epistle is what we have all been talking about here, which is that spiritual regeneration is about righteousness in your deeds, which is what Christ says about, by their fruits you shall know them. And for us Muslims, if you go through the Quran, every time you see Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, those who have faith and who are righteous in their deeds. So why is it that in a country today where we have many more churches than we had, many more mosques, many more imams, many more pastors. We seem to be getting more and more religious, or claim to have more and more faith, but we see less and less righteousness. And this is really the question we need to ask ourselves. And, you know, even on the minor things, when Father Kuka was talking about, or Bishop Kuka, when he was talking about, yeah, he complains that I don't call him Bishop yet, he's a Bishop Kuka. You know, when he was talking about the investiture of the Archbishop of Abuja, Archbishop Kaigama, I was protesting because Archbishop Kaigama knows that when I saw him today, my first protest was he did not invite me to the investiture. Maybe he thought he shouldn't, or I wouldn't attend. But I was present at the investiture of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Because I met Archbishop Justin Welby in the 1990s when he was still a canon at the Coventry Cathedral, working on the peace and reconciliation work of the Anglican Church. And I visited him at the cathedral. And that cathedral has a very interesting history. During the Second World War, it was bombed by the Nazis. And the very next day, the Archbishop came, stood there, and said, "We will rebuild this cathedral, and from here, we will build a center of peace." You know, there's so much work that's gone on, and this is not something that started now. When the very early Muslims were persecuted in Mecca, the Prophet said to them, "Go to Abyssinia. There is a just and kind Christian king. He will protect you." They went to Abyssinia, got the protection of the Negus. The Arab community sent a delegation to him to say, "Give us these people to try them back home because they have rejected our faith." In the course of the conversation, they said to him, "Their prophet even talks about your Lord Jesus." So he said, "Tell me, what does your prophet say about Jesus Christ?" And one of them gave him certain verses from a chapter in the Quran that's called Surah to Maryam. There's a whole chapter in the Quran named after the Virgin Mary. And the particular section started with وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ إِذِ انْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. And mentioned in the book Mary when she moved away from her people to an eastern place. And there's a long story that talks about how the angel Gabriel came to Mary, how he told her she would have a baby, how she said, "How could I have a child when I have not been with a man?" And he said, "This is how your God ordained it. If you want something, it says to be, and it is." Until at the end, Jesus himself speaking says, وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وَلِدْتُ وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ وَيَوْمَ أُبْعَثُ حَيًّا. And peace is upon me the day I was born, and the day I will die, and the day I shall be brought up to life again. When they finished reading that section of the Quran, the Negus had tears in his eyes. And he took his staff and drew a line, a very thin line, and said, "By the God who created me, the difference between you and me is not as thick as this line. I will not hand you over to these polytheists. Some books of Muslim history speak about a delegation of Christians from Najran who visited the Prophet, and he welcomed them. He had a dialogue with them in his mosque. He allowed them to stay in his mosque. That was their abode, and they conducted their service in his mosque. So my question is, where did we get this idea that somehow at the level of faith or at the level of religion, Christianity and Islam are at war? I don't know. I don't know. I certainly have not seen it in the Quran. I've not seen it in the... Of course, there are certain verses in the Quran and the Bible that you can read in any way you want. And it's about interpretation. And there are certain things that happen in context. And even when you deal with scholars, certain things happen in context. If you have a Muslim scholar who was writing in the 13th century in Syria, and he was talking about Christians, he was probably dealing with Christians who were crusaders and who were fighting in a war. I do not see John Cardinal Onayekon carrying a sword to attack me. And therefore I cannot use the same category of that context to look at the Christian today. So I think one of our greatest problems is ignorance, and we need to deal with that. And unfortunately, Nigeria, I mean, we have a number of extremely bright people. Unfortunately, the culture of reading and the culture of education has degenerated. And the kind of young people we're producing, the kind of mentality that we see on the social media is a reflection of the low quality of education that children have had. So these things are fundamental issues of governance, fundamental issues of social policy. Far, far more important, I think, than theological issues. Differences are there. The differences between Christian sects are many. If you're looking theologically, the difference between the Catholic Church and the born-again churches they're huge. And within Islam, it's the same thing. But you don't pick up arms and kill each other because you have theological differences. If it's possible for a Catholic and a Protestant, and there was a time, by the way, that they were at war in the past. Everything you hear about people being excommunicated, or people being executed for blasphemy, we go back to the whole debates between Athanasius and Arius in the early church. Even Martin Luther and the Swiss theologian Servetus, just Martin Luther, that had him executed for blasphemy. But the world has moved on. We have created an infrastructure that allows everybody to hold on to his beliefs, onto his values, and respect the beliefs and values of others. And that comes with education. Education at the level of leadership, first, and at the level of followership. The second point I'd like to make, and this I make as an economist, is that we underestimate the security and peace implications of mismanagement of economies. The creation of unequal societies, where you have extreme opulence living side by side with extreme wealth, vertically. And when you have wealthy regions side by side with very poor regions, this is a blueprint for instability. Because where you have grievances, where you have marginalization, it is very easy for charlatans to tap into those grievances, to create false identities, to demonize others, and to encourage violence. And people, again, because of the lack of education, misunderstand their enemies. The poor Muslim Hausa farmer does not understand that his interests are more aligned with the poor Christian Hausa farmer than with his rich Muslim neighbor. And the same thing with the Christians. And it is very easy for the rich Muslims and the rich Christians to get together as friends and then divide the poor Muslims and the poor Christians so that they can continue to manipulate them. You know, the politicians, they keep talking about when they come and talk about, you see them at the weddings, they're together on the same table, Owambe, Ashobi. They're marrying off each other, they're friends, they go to parties together, they sit in meetings together. How come? Why is it that the elite is that we are all able to sit together as Muslim and Christian friends, and yet we do not want at the grassroots for them to be there because it serves our interest as elite. Communication is the third issue. How do leaders handle crisis? How do they handle communication? And for me, when I speak, I try to speak from personal experience because I deal with these issues on a daily basis. One of the first, since I've been aiming and kind of haven't had a religious crisis, alhamdulillah, one of the first instances I had was in a village in a local government called Rogo. And this was a case of a Christian young man who had become a Muslim, then he reverted to Christianity, and then young Muslims said, well, he has committed apostasy, they wanted to kill him, and he ran away, and they went to the village, and then they burnt the church and the house of the pastor. So there is huge tension in the village, and he was worried that it might lead to a major crisis. So I went. And by the way, when you go out to the rural villages in the north and see how people live, you begin to understand why there is so much anger. Because it took me maybe 2 hours to get to the local government headquarters, and took me a much longer time to get to the village because the road was not built. And I was wondering, how do these people bring their crops to the market? How do they take their wives to hospital? How many hours? There are no taxis. Do they walk? So I went to the village. Before I went there, there had been newspaper and social media stories that the Muslims had burnt the church, they burnt the pastor's house, and they had killed his baby. So we sat down, so I called the pastor, gave him in front of everybody, and told him on the death of his baby. I said, how was she killed? He said, my baby was not killed. He said, I never told anybody that my baby was killed. My baby was born, she was sick, she just happened to have died on that day. But the story in the social media was that the Muslim youth had slaughtered her. The man was peaceful. The Christians were sad that their church had been burnt. His house had been burnt. We requested the local government to rebuild the church. It took a long time, they didn't do it. I called the district head and gave him the money and rebuilt the church. Now, why did I have to do that? Because even if everything is forgiven, every single day the Christian youth in that village got up and saw that their church was burnt and the mosque was standing, you cannot guarantee that some of them will not say, let us also burn down the mosque. A second instance. I was in China a few months ago. The moment I landed, I turned on my phone. There were about 20, 30 different messages about how some kidnappers in Onitsha had been caught. They had kidnapped children from Kano. And people were going on about, Igbos kidnapping their children, coming to come to take their children, to convert them to Christianity. And most of the comments were, why are you saying nothing? So I read through the stories, and people called me and said I needed to speak to BBC or something. So I said, look, I'm in China. You want me to speak about this matter when tempers are high? If the youth in Kano decide to attack the Igbos while I'm here, who's going to kill the fire for me? So, but people are saying, I said, well, people can say that I'm not speaking. But there are times when the consequences of speaking are more negative than those of being silent. So I reached out to the Obi of Onitsha. And I said, Obi, are you aware that there's a band of kidnappers that's been just caught in Onitsha who had kidnapped children? He said, no, I'm not. So I sent him the links, he read, and he called me back. I said, Your Highness, I'm sorry. I had my New Year festival. From here I went to Akure. After that, there was this big fire in Onitsha that took my time. So it blindsided me, I did not even read the story. But I'm going for a security meeting now with the governor, and I'll get back to you. He called me back. And the story was, look, yes, these children were not just from Kano, from different parts. There was a gang that was doing it. There was collaboration between the Kano State Police Command, the IGP's office, and the Anambra State Police Command to break up the gang. But in all the stories, it was Kano police had broken this gang. There was no mention of the collaboration of Anambra police. No, you see, communication, if it's selective, it can be dangerous. If you are from Kano and you are told that it is policemen in Kano that caused the gang, you can believe that people in Anambra were complicit. But if you are told that it was Kano and Anambra who collaborated, you have a different image. So I said, look, Obi, I'm out of the country. I'm under pressure to talk. I'm not going to talk. But you are in Nigeria. You need to issue a statement on this. Oh, we agreed. He issued a statement. He condemned this. He gave an update of what was happening. Assured that they were going to find as many of the as they could. And then he also said he is in communication with the Emir of Kano on this matter. And that was how the tension was diffused. And the Igbo community in Kano came out, condemned this, and said they may be Igbos, but they do not represent us. They are criminals, and they should be brought to book. Now, if I had just listened to all these people from China, gotten on the radio to condemn Igbos who are taken from Kano, before I came back, Kano may have burnt to the ground. So the role of leadership is important. And the truth is that many of us, when these things happen, get carried away And do not remember that when you are having a conversation with what are called the popular masses, it is not the same as a closed door. I can sit down with John Bishop, John Cardinal Oyanikon, if I have a problem, and we can have a robust debate that if it were to come out to the public, say, these people are enemies of each other. They hate each other. Because people read things differently, and people are in different circumstances. And there's already poverty, there's already anger, there's already frustration. So it's like lighting a match to petrol. We have a very sad instance of the chairman of CAN, Mejika, had been killed by Boko Haram. It's very sad, and we give our condolences to the Christian community. But you must remember that Boko Haram also tried to kill Emir Ado Bayero. Boko Haram tried to kill me. They bombed my mosque. They thought I was there. Killed about 200 people. Just last week, Ansar has claimed credit for the attack on the Emir of Portisco. So, if this is just presented as some Muslim attack on Christians, it misses the point. It is that we need to have a situation where this Boko Haram killed Imam Jafar. Boko Haram killed Imam Albani. You know, we need to understand that this is really about the sanctity of life. And Father, whoever takes life, whether he's Muslim or Christian, is just a criminal. It's a criminal. The fact that he kills, you don't go and ask him, what is your party membership? Okay, I'm APC, there's an APC member that killed. What does that mean? A man who kills, kills. Or a woman. And they should be treated as that. It's a crime. They are criminals. And this crime does not have religious. They may claim to be Muslims or Christians, but they are not doing it in the name. They may even claim to be doing it in the name of Islam or Christianity, but we reject that. Because they cannot show you in the Bible or the Quran where it says, go and kill an innocent man. Never. So, what do we do? I listened to Bishop Kuka, I listened to Professor Tawfiq Ladan, I listened to John Cardinal Oyanikon, I listened to the chairperson of Women's Wing of CAN. And, you know, one of my favorite political theorists was an Italian Marxist, neo-Marxist called Antonio Gramsci. Gramsci is known for his theory of the hegemonic state. And everything I heard today is about hegemony. And the point he makes is that the religious leaders, the judiciary, and the police, the press, and the intellectuals, we are the ones who are supposed to hold political society to account. But the standard political strategy, showing articulate modes of production, is to bribe you, to intimidate you, to muzzle you into silence, so that political society continues to do what it wishes to do. If you're an emir, if you talk too much, you get removed. And it's true, you get removed. That's the truth. That's the truth. And you have to make a choice as to whether you want to remain a slave wearing a turban or a free man without a turban. You have to make that choice. It's a choice you have to make. If you're an imam or a bishop, it's the same thing. Or maybe you want money to build your church. You want money to buy a nice car. Maybe even not for yourself. Maybe your church needs money in order to do charity. And you're ready to do business with the devil so that you can do charity. So when we speak about dialogue, and I'm not trying to be controversial, when we speak about dialogue, I really think whether we are, if you take northern Nigeria, where you have 80% poverty, whether we are Muslims or Christians, what are the issues that are facing us today? Children out of school, malnutrition, drug problems, extremism. Which of these issues comes from Islam or Christianity? So if we are serious Muslims and Christians, should we not be banding together and making these the priorities that we face? Making these the problems that we solve. And you know what? As you solve the problem of education, as you solve the problem of health, as you solve nutrition, as you solve employment, you find that this religious crisis disappear. Because initially, these were the root causes. Even when you study Islam, some people read one hadith and they say, as Sheikh Masur is here, Bishop Buka said, somebody said, my religion does not allow me to enter a church. Sheikh Masur will tell you that from the earliest days there was a disagreement among the caliphs between Umar and Ali as to whether a Muslim can enter a church. You take one view and you say this is the only view of Islam. You have not even read all the views. At least you can say this is my own choice, this is what I prefer, but there are other views. But no, there's only one view. So not even just between Muslims, even among Muslims, my understanding of Islam is the only correct understanding. And that is where identity begins, then othering. Then when you other, you demonize. When you demonize, you make lawful injustice against the other. So, I am hoping and praying that I have said nothing controversial. Please take it out. The rest is from His Eminence, and this controversy is from His Highness.
Thank you very much.
Let me stand on the system.